This is 6 habits that will destroy your confidence as a man. Welcome to the podcast. How are we doing, Pete?
Good. How are you, mate?
Um, Pete asked me how I was feeling before. He actually said, "How are you feeling?" And I reeled off how I'm actually feeling. He just was checking in because I was ill the other day. But it's just, the jokes aside, yeah, I'm feeling good. I got plagued with a short man flu. For those of you men listening, you'll know that man flu is probably the most savage thing. No woman will ever understand. And I had man flu. So I want to, this is 6 habits that destroy your confidence as a man. And we're doing this episode because so many men we speak to want to improve their confidence, and it's all well and good knowing what we can do to become more confident. But in this podcast, we're going to focus on what are the things, or what are the habits, specifically like perpetual behaviors that destroy your confidence as a man. And let's dive in, Pete. What's your first one?
Okay, number one, this is the way that you talk to yourself. This your inner talk. If your inner talk is and listen, we've all got the negative shit. But if your inner talk is consistently around being a victim, the world is against you, it's not for you, the people around you are against you, you're pissed off at the people around you, there's things that aren't going right for you consistently, and you're consistently sitting in that victimhood, that inner talk is more negative than it is positive. That will absolutely go against your confidence. And the guys that are very confident, they will spin it. So if they have that negative inner talk, then it might be there for a minute, but then there will be something that will spin around onto that to turn it into a positive. Okay, well, actually, what's the best thing that can come from this? What's the positive outcome that will come from this? And so the story that the confident guys tell themselves is that of positivity and growth.
Nice. I like that. The one I've got here is porn. So porn is a habit. So whether you consume porn frequently, daily, or weekly, monthly, porn is a very pervasive habit, because one of the things about porn is that it sometimes masks some of the relationship issues that you have, whether that you're not in a relationship. So because you haven't got a partner, or you find dating difficult, you just turn to porn because it's easier, there's less risk, and it actually stops you from choosing the risk, and it's actually risk that grows you as a man. Now, if you think about this, what makes us more confident is courage. So I love this distinction. Courage is doing the things that doesn't feel good. Confidence feels good. So I really like that. So actually pushing into a relationship, or even if you have got a certain desire in your sex, that you want to do something with your partner, or you've got a certain way that you want to express yourself to your partner, but you won't take the vulnerable step and ask or create it in your relationship, and you just turn to porn to satisfy that, you're not taking the uncomfortable risk, and you don't grow. So this is why porn is so pervasive as for eroding your confidence. And so the other part of this is that when you have been watching porn and you want to stop, there's probably a point where you're going, oh yeah, I need to stop watching pornography, and this requires a shit ton of self restraint. And it's actually self restraint which is the true route to confidence. It means like I'm going to refrain from doing something that's easy, and I'm going to choose the harder route. So it's both parts. It's not just about what you're watching and what you're not engaging in with your partner or potential partner. It's actually the habit that you're perpetuating, which is eroding your self-confidence.
Yeah, I like that a lot. Okay, next one for me. This is the way that you compare yourself to others and the way that you judge others. Judge? What, you can't fuck. You shouldn't judge people. I disagree with that. I think it's okay to judge, but it's the way that you judge, and it's the way that you compare. And particularly now with social media, we're consistently seeing the highlight reel of everyone's fantastic fucking lives, and it's really easy to look at that and go, "Fuck, I haven't." how are they that far ahead of me, or how are they doing that? And it can be easy to fall into a negative spin. And the guru might say, well, listen, you just got to compare yourself to you. Like, where were you? And then compare yourself to where you were. And I agree with that, but it's easier said than done. Particularly now, it's way easier to say, just compare yourself to when you first started, than actually consistently doing that. So the way that I personally like to look at this is that I will absolutely do some form of comparison, and I'll do some form of judgment on other guys, but it be on the. Do you know what? Ben is freaking good at running. Like, he can go for a run for 2 hours in the desert. He's got something that I don't have. So do you know what? I want that. I want to be able to do that. So I'll improve myself for that. I will also look at other people in a form of judgment. Go, heck, that guy has got something that I don't want. Like, I don't want that in my life. And so I think that's the important distinction when you're comparing yourself to others. Is do it in a positive light. How can you put a positive spin on that? Go, hey, that guy's got that. Fucking brilliant. Good on him. I want that too.
Yeah, we talked a while ago about compersion versus comparison. Like, compersion being the wholehearted participation in the joy and striving and like success of others. So what Pete's describing there is like when he sees a guy and he's doing well, he's got the nice car, or he's having success in his relationship, or his kid's doing well. Pete sees that and says, I'm all in with you. I'm supporting you. Whereas I think what a lot of guys have is they see that and it just highlights everything they're not. And they just end up in this really like poor me victim space. So yeah, I love that. The one I've got here is getting out of shape. We talk a lot about getting out of shape being so detrimental to a man's confidence. And getting out of shape is a habit, actually. Like, and this is actually a really important point, is that a lot of people have a boom and bust approach to dieting. They have a boom and bust approach to their training. They have a boom and bust approach to their health. So what happens is they get in shape. They have a family due, or they have the December comes along, or they have a wedding, and then they're a write off for weeks. And they get into shape, they get out of shape. It's absolutely exhausting. But the reason it ruins your confidence, specifically for a man, is that you see a man, and when a guy comes in and he looks great, he looks in shape. There's an assumption I make. I know that man has got healthy coping mechanisms, and the thing I think most important as a guy is that you can cope without calories or cope without any kind of vice. So you see a guy who's lost his cool and he goes out and smokes and he's all in a tiz. It's not attractive. And equally, a guy that is going through a struggle and he gets absolutely hammered to deal with it. I don't think, I'm a bit more compassionate in terms of the judgment side, but it isn't attractive in from a business standpoint, from a safety standpoint, from a partner. But you've got to see this as the reason that you are getting out of shape is that you're coping with your stresses with calories. And it shows that you just haven't got advanced coping mechanisms. We talked in the podcast loads about having different outlets for your energy, for your stress, for your anger. So check in with that, guys, because one of the ways that you could be coping with your stresses in your relationship and your business is to go and have a drink or go and overeat. And it just signals to me that you just haven't learned better coping mechanisms.
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly with this. And this is like even your sleep. Like, it's a massive part of, if you're buggering up your sleep, or you're going to bed later than maybe you should be, or you're spending time on your phone when you probably should just go to sleep, and you're doing things to sabotage that is ultimately neglecting your health, which is ultimately neglecting your self-love, your self-care, your self-respect, which is ultimately damaging your confidence longer term. Yeah. Okay, the last one for me. How does a man destroy his confidence? What's one of the habits? One of the habits for me is a man not having impossible goals alongside milestones towards those impossible goals. So this is twofold. Number one, it's when a man isn't thinking big enough. He's not thinking about creating the impossible. He is settling. Right, he's settling for average. He's settling for mediocre. But the second thing on this is that when you create impossible goals, like they could be really freaking daunting sometimes. Like fucking hell, that's so far away that it's seemingly impossible. I have no idea how I'm going to get to that, and it can then actually damage your confidence in having such a big audacious goal and then not getting anywhere near that, or just not getting the wins along the way. So then the important thing here to add onto that is to have milestones that are achievable. So, for example, let's just go into money. Say your impossible goal is to do 1 million. You want to do 1 million in personal income, but your personal income right now is 100. It's 100k. Well, maybe the milestones is like, well, let me get to 110. That's the next milestone towards 1 million. When I got to 110, I can have it's a micro win. I can get a little celebration. Then I'm going to get to 130, so a little bit more of a jump up. Milestone, tick it off, bosh. Then I'm going to get to 170 milestone, and then so you keep having these micro milestones along the way to the big impossible. So you're consistently winning along the way because you got to fucking win. Because if it's like million, that's it, I'm not going to be happy until I get to it. We don't know what that timeline could be. That timeline could be 10 years. That timeline could be 5 years. You don't know what the timeline is going to be. And that is damaging your confidence if you're not having these little milestones along the way where you win.
Yeah, you're actually echoing what Dan Sullivan said, is that as entrepreneurs, it's not our goals that overwhelm us, it's our deadlines. And I was just like, oh my God, that's exactly what you just said.
Oh
It's
yeah,
just like,
nice.
yeah. It's like, I heard that the other day and I was like, oh my gosh. And actually what you're talking about there, Pete, is the gap in the gain. They did a book on that and they talked about it where it's like, you spend your life looking at the gap, like where you're not. And instead of going back and looking at your milestones and going, well, actually, that's where I've come from. I'm actually, I'm doing 10 grand more this month or next month or this quarter. And it's like, that's where your confidence comes from. So great point. My final one's a bit different, actually. I don't think I've talked about this one. Is not doing the thing after the hard thing. So this is what I've observed in guys quite frequently is they pump themselves up to do the hard thing, to go on the first date. The first email, I had a client the other day, he sent his first email out to his list of over 1,000 people. And then he was wondering like, well, what do I do next? And he didn't do the thing after the hard thing. So like, do you get what I mean? So it's like, what happens is we have that hard thing that we really need to go and do. I go and speak on stage. You know, loads of people I work with, they want to go and speak on stage. They do the speaking on stage thing, but they don't go and book the next 2-3 speaking engagements. So they don't actually ever move from courage to confidence. And going back to what I said before, courage doesn't feel good, confidence does. And that actually is really important, I think, is once you've done the hard thing, it's about going and doing it again and again and again and again, ingraining it to the point where it does become confidence. And I think that's far too often we just do that hard thing, the one thing that gets us going, but then we don't continue. And that's where it's all at. It's like, it's the people that used to walk through the gym door, do the first week, which was the hardest week to get through in fitness, and then they don't carry on week 2, month 2, month 6, month 12. So that's where they I would call them a zigzag person. They do the hard thing and then they cool off. They do the hard thing and then they cool off. So they just burn out. And eventually that just, it saps their energy, saps their confidence. So then that they were 6 habits that destroy your confidence as a man. Thank you so much for listening. And if there's anyone that's resonated with you personally, be sure to drop Pete or I a message and share what really, really struck a chord for you today. Thank you so much for listening and see you on the next podcast.
Cheers, team.